You got to know where your boundaries are. And when you figure those out, embrace them. Hey, don't say, oh, well, I don't understand why I can't do high volume. Say, you know what? Thank God I found out I don't do well with high volume because I don't want to waste any more time. Now I'm going to start putting some size on because now I know what I need to do. I need to eat and I need to train. And that's the reality of the situation. Everyone's different. You need to figure out what works for you. I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
RX Television, RXMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. Whatever is on your mind, bodybuilding-related questions, non-bodybuilding-related questions, whether they be diet, whether they be training, supplementation. Obviously, we are entering now into the thick of the IFBB Pro contest schedule. This weekend, big show coming up with the New York Pro. This past weekend, obviously, was the Pittsburgh Pro, which featured the annual guest posing of some of the top Olympians. So you got to see the likes of Samson Dowda, of Nick Walker. Chris Bumstead made an appearance there, didn't guest pose, but you got to see Derek Lunsford as well. Big Ramy making an appearance this year. So a lot of excitement now as we head into the thick of the contest calendar. So let's go right into the questions. The first two questions on this show from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. First question, how long would you recommend running 400 mg test C? I'm on TRT, 200 mg a week. Just a side comment, you were 100% right about training one body part a week, yada, yada, yada. All right, great. But the question is about running 400 mg test C. He's on TRT, 200 mg a week.
You know, everyone teeters on this line of what's a TRT dose versus what's a cycle dose. We kind of arbitrarily say 200 milligrams per week of a long-acting testosterone is considered replacement for what your body naturally produces. Now, for some people, that's the case. Some people like me, if I take 200 milligrams a week, I'm really high. I'm like well over 1,000, on total testosterone levels. Whereas I know other people that could take 200 milligrams a week, and when they get tested, they're maybe 600, 500. They're not even that high. So for each person, it's different. 400 milligrams is kind of pushing into what we call the pharmacological zone. While there's really no toxicity, surrounding the 400 milligrams a week, you might get some pharmacological side effects. You might have high estrogen levels. Potentially your blood pressure might go up a little bit. And as long as you're keeping an eye on all that, there's really no negative to staying on 400 milligrams for a longer period of time. Obviously, your red blood cell count might go up a little higher. But more importantly, what might happen is your receptors might not be as sensitive if you're going to stay on 400 for a long period of time. But you could probably do 6 months on 400 milligrams, per week. If everything else is checking out well health-wise, if you feel good on it, Personally, if I'm right now, I'm in, the process, I'm back on hormone replacement. I had been off for 7 years. I take a dose, which is about 60 milligrams per week, which seems to put me exactly where I need to be, about 850 on my total testosterone. I feel good on that. I don't need to push it beyond that. I feel like I'm sure I'll make more gains and I'll feel better on more, but you get into this slippery slope of keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and before you know it, you're up to 1,000 milligrams a week. So if you can control the 400 and leave it there and you feel good at it, stay at that level for a while. If you feel like, I'm kind of burnt out, I'm not really responding anymore, drop it down to 200, drop it down to 100 milligrams for, a couple of months until you kind of feel like, you know what, I feel good. I'm back. I'm going to bump it up again and see how I feel. So because of the fact that there's really no toxicity, you can kind of go back and forth at will based on how you feel and how your body's responding.
Second question. Again, these questions are from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. You made much mention about the fact that, again, with your medical background, having gone to medical school, the question is, this is specific to how that may have influenced your protocols, specifically during your bodybuilding career. Given your medical background and use of anabolic steroids, do you feel as if your medical background influenced your selection, your choice, and your understanding of anabolics? Would you say a more thorough grasp on the science of these drugs can make an individual more open to using them?
I think I kind of, first of all, I want to go on the record. I didn't graduate from medical school. I went for 3 out of 4 years. Not a doctor, but I learned everything that they teach you in medical school about the knowledge aspect of it, not the in-hospital. The in-hospital stuff is that 3rd and 4th year. So I kind of have a lot of the background knowledge, which is definitely beneficial because I understand how the anabolics work. I understand the feedback loops with hormones between the hypothalamus, pituitary, testicles. I understand, what the body does to break the stuff down via the liver. I understand how the kidneys filter the blood and the relationship with blood pressure. So I have a really good understanding. And if I don't remember something from medical school, I can look it up. I can Google it, and in 2 seconds, I can read a page on it, and it comes back to me like as if I took it yesterday because I have familiarity with it, and I think that really helps. So, yes, do I think you need to go to medical school to be an expert in taking steroids? Probably not. I probably spent a lot of money just to be an expert in steroids. But to be honest with you, obviously I needed it for whatever my future was going to hold, and what I'm doing now, it was beneficial to me. Does everyone need to do that? Probably not. Is it good to take biology, biochemistry, maybe even a pharmacology class if they offer it in college? Absolutely. If this is something you enjoy doing and you want to know the science behind all the bro science, so to speak, and so you can make informed decisions, education can never hurt you. The problem is you're not going to have anyone in medical school, or you're not going to have anyone in college teaching you about how to use anabolic steroids. I kind of had to learn that on the street, as they say, and then I integrated what I learned in school with what I learned on the street, and I made it work. Plus, I had a mentor who was a physician. He was a doctor, he was a dermatologist. He was a very intelligent guy. He was a bodybuilder. He used anabolics. And so that was a guy I bounced, a lot of ideas off of. Dr. Mike, I've talked about him in the past. So he really, between the two of us, we kind of formulated a lot of the protocols that are being used to this day, even, especially with the anti-aromatases. So yes, it definitely helped me, but I don't think it's necessary. Now, these two questions, which were both very good questions, by the way, are typical of the questions we get at the Dave Palumbo Experience app. I know you guys don't like when I market anything, but you know what? This is important because a lot of people want information. They want to have questions answered by me. I answer everyone's questions on this app. It's $29 a month to join. You download it from the Android store or the iTunes store, and you have Dave Palumbo as your coach in your pocket. And I answer all these questions on an open forum on the app. So everyone sees everyone's questions, everyone's answers. So you kind of learn from other people. I also do a Q&A video that's in addition to this Ask Dave TV show, only for the app members every single week. I never miss. Even when I was in the hospital, I never missed. Same thing, all my videos, all my writings in one place. It's like a library of all the stuff that I've done over the years. We also put a workout up every single week. So if you want to vary up your workouts, this is something that's, a valuable tool in today's world. And at least it's a place you can go and get real information that's not just bro science. So guys, check it out. Once again, at your Android store or your iTunes store.
As we well know, Dave, everyone else is allowed to market their own products, not you. Yeah. You're the only one that's not allowed. It's Palumbo peddling his products again.
That's right.
Let's go to our Instagram question. Again, if you're not already following us on Instagram, official_RX Muscle. If you're new to the YouTube channel, we ask that you subscribe below, hit the notification bell. You're not going to miss any of our show segments, updates. Of course, this weekend, the New York Pro, and of course, all of the pro contests over the course of the next few weeks. We'll be covering it in one way, shape, or form. So again, you're not going to miss any of our segments. So again, subscribe, hit the notification bell. If you like what you're watching, hit the like button, comment below. And as always, we appreciate all of your support. Interesting one here. And I do feel as if there are some misconceptions when it comes to this subject. And that is you and Milos, specifically, I guess, agreements or disagreements regarding his insulin protocol. Questions from Brian Nasser. Says he even watched past Guru Talks. Milos seems to be legit. Where exactly do you stand as far as your agreements or disagreements with Milos and his insulin protocol?
Yeah, I hate talking about this, and I'll tell you why. Although I like talking about it with Milos because we're friends. So nothing gets misinterpreted because him and I are going back and forth, and it's friendly debate. When I talk about it and he's not here, it always gets misconstrued. Him and I are on a very similar basis in that we agree that insulin needs to definitely be used in certain cases, especially for people who are running high blood sugars. Milos likes to take the performance aspect of insulin to the next level, which I'm fine with too, because I use it in certain protocols with certain people that need to make sure they absorb all their nutrients properly. But Milos likes to use it like pre-workout and large amounts of it. And then he likes to feed that insulin with sugar throughout the whole workout. Because if you don't, obviously your blood sugar is going to drop. So that's where we differentiate. I don't understand why you would want to take insulin right before you go into the gym and drop your blood sugar and then have to pound sugar while you're in the gym to prevent yourself from going hypoglycemic. I just think it's a little ridiculous. You know, post-workout, fine. Pre-workout is you're asking for trouble. Okay, if you want to carb up in the morning, taking some insulin, you know, prior, a couple hours before you go to the gym, so that when you get to the gym, you're really glycogen loaded. I'm all for that too. Usually my insulin protocols will, involve like some insulin in the morning and then 5 to 6 hours later, another shot, and then, or post-workout. And so him and I are similar, but he has that pre-workout whole weird aminos and carbs and this and that. And once again, you're feeding the insulin. You're not taking insulin to absorb the food you're eating. And that's where my problem is. And so, I think most people who follow that insulin protocol get very bloated and fat from it. Okay. There are genetically blessed people who do need more insulin. Probably I fit into that category when I was competing, that could handle that protocol and will respond well and grow from it. But it's not for everyone. The problem is when he talks about it, even though it works on some of the people he's using it on, I think people think, well, I could use that too. And meanwhile, that person who's saying, yeah, me too, I can use it too, they're the ones who get fat real easy. They do the protocol, they turn into a bloated mess. And so I think you have to qualify that it's not for everyone. It's a more advanced type of protocol that only is going to work well on people who need that extra insulin. And so that's the point of differentiation.
Got a lot of good questions here. We're going to try to race through as many as we can. Nico Cantemir, why the 3 weeks before competition? So hard to move, to walk. Is it the drugs, the diet, all of it? And what did you do in terms of, he says, I don't know if this is a bad Google translation, but he says, did you experiment that terrible tiredness? Let's frame it as if, I guess,
sure, I think he means experience. He probably means experience
before contest.
I think he means experience that tiredness, Sid. Did you experience that? I think that's what he was referring to.
So let's go with that, yeah.
Yeah. So, here's a good example I give people. I've done diets where I've dieted for 20 weeks for shows, and in the last 3 weeks, you feel like if you're lean enough, which I always was, you feel like terrible. You feel like a machine. You don't even feel human being. It hurts to sit down because you have no fat on your butt. All those things. You're tired all the time. You're like basically just working on fumes, usually in caffeine. When I started getting toward the end of my career and I was staying leaner, I wasn't really bulking up in the off season anymore. I didn't need to. And I really only needed 4 weeks to get in shape. I would start my diet 4 weeks out from a show, legitimately, because I really was that lean. And the second day of the diet, I felt like I had been dieting for 12 weeks. Why? Because it's all based on body fat. It has nothing to do with how long you've been dieting. It's based on how low your body fat is. When body fat gets to a certain level, being very, very low, you just feel terrible because your body has no reserves. It's operating on fumes, basically. It's operating on the last meal you just ate. And when that last meal kind of runs its course, you got nothing because there's no fat left in your body. So your body has got no energy. So it starts to shut itself down. Some people get cold. Some people, just they want to sleep because the body's trying to conserve energy. Okay. And that's normal. That's normal. And that's why a lot of people don't get super crazy ripped, because they cannot handle that discomfort and that pain and suffering that ensues in the last 2 to 3 weeks before a competition. And so they'll eat a little extra food, I'm hungry, or I got to carb up a little bit. And they rationalize in their head eating a little bit more. And they never, ever dig into those final fat stores that are very hard to get rid of, because they can't go to that place of uncomfortableness, that place of pain and suffering. So they stop short of there. So, and that's the difference between looking like you're crazy shrink wrapped on stage and almost being there, or looking almost as good as you could possibly do that. I always went to that place where I couldn't be any leaner. And that's a very uncomfortable and it's painful place to go to, but it comes with the territory.
I feel as if we've discussed this this question in different ways. Like, who's your favorite bodybuilder today or in the past? Dedrick wants to know, which current pro bodybuilder is your favorite physique and why?
That's a tough question, actually, to be honest with you. I really do like Bumstead in Classic. I've always liked him. As a matter of fact, the first Olympia that I saw him compete in, I thought he was going to win, and I was going crazy when he didn't, because I think he's got a really, really marvelous physique.
Let me jump in real quick. I'll never forget, because I remember I mentioned this to Bumstead in 2019 at the Meet the Olympians before he won his first of 4 Olympias. You said a particular line. Because remember, you used to do the play-by-play in the forums.
Yeah.
When Chris Bumstead came out, you wrote, and I quote, "Chris Bumstead will dominate this division for the next 10 years."
He's got that kind of physique. I mean, it was obvious. I mean, if you have a good eye, you can spot it. And he wasn't as good as he is now, but I knew he was still that good, and he blew me away, really. So, I mean, hats off to him. I really like that physique. Obviously, he's not an open guy. If we're talking about open level bodybuilders, who do I like in the current crop of guys that are out there? You can't not like Derek Lunsford's physique. I mean, he's pretty much complete, and I love the fact that he's always dialed in, shredded to the bone. He's got a tiny waist, big shoulders. I mean, he's very impressive on stage, super impressive. I like Samson's physique. Like, if I had to pick a bodybuilder on the Olympia stage who I wanted to look like, I would pick Samson's physique. I think Samson's got a great physique. I think athletically looking, just walking through like an airport, he's got to be the most impressive guy, because he's athletic. He's like a Tony Freeman, we have not seen Samson Dowda bring the level of conditioning, however, to the stage where he's blown everyone away. When he does that, I'll say that's the physique I love most, because he really does have all the bells and whistles and tools he's got. I liked Ramy when he first hit the scene, because he was a super freak of crazy freaks, and I love muscle, and I love crazy conditioning, and I love wacky, lines and symmetry and stuff like that. And Ramy had all that, He's just kind of coming to the end of his career now, so he's not quite as dominant as he was. But at his best, he was, I mean, I don't know who wouldn't want to have that physique. I mean, but in terms of aesthetics and the whole package, I guess Samson has got to be the guy you say you want to look like.
I'll see if I can pull up this picture. There's a picture I posted on our Instagram. There's like there are a lot of Big Ramy fan pages, right? Especially on Facebook, because we have a lot more the Middle East contingent on Facebook. So there's this one page. It's called Ultras Big Ramy. So they just, I mean, it's essentially them just posting pictures of Big Ramy now and in the past. So they posted this one picture, and I don't know what year this is. I'm going to send you the link right now, Dave, if you want to share it on right here on this presentation. It's from Oxygen Gym, so obviously it's from years ago. Yeah, but
you can share the page.
Yeah, hold on a second. I'm going to email this to you real quick. But it's just an idea of how many different iterations Big Rami's physique has gone through, and what he looked like. I mean, it's funny because we're talking about the New York Pro being this weekend. The New York Pro was 2013 is when he burst onto the stage. And, it's funny because we are getting questions, your thoughts on the lineup for the New York Pro. And, perhaps it's an opportunity. I'm not saying there's going to be another Big Rami's that emerge this weekend, but people didn't know Big Rami before he became Big Rami. I sent you that, but let me take another question in the meantime. It's from Ken B. Fit. Are there any real benefits to using injectable L-Carnatine, either pre-workout or pre-fasted cardio?
To be honest with you, I think it's an overhyped supplement in terms of fat loss and all that stuff. There is some supposedly longevity issues or longevity benefits of it, but the truth of the matter is that it's one of these what I call luxury items or luxury supplements. I wouldn't personally waste my money on it as a separate standalone product. But if it was in a lot of people, we all put it in our fat burners and stuff like that because it can't hurt, but it's not going to do anything significant where you would be like, oh, let's take L-Carnitine. Let's inject L-Carnitine. I just haven't seen anything to really substantiate, going crazy over
it. G Classic
Let
Physique is.
Let me pull that picture up. I'm going to pull that picture up. Yeah, what year was that from?
That's what if I had to guess, what would you say? Like 2013, 2014? I mean, this is before obviously.
You can see how fresh his muscles are. Those delts and arms, he doesn't have those anymore, Waist is smaller, but his width is the same, so pretty crazy.
But you remember there was a picture. I remember you brought it up. I think it was on Heavy Muscle Radio. I think you were talking about it with Chris. There was that one loose footage from Rami, like before he became what he is today. Obviously, like he's kind of goofing around with people.
Before he even shaved his head.
Right. When he still had exactly somewhat of a head of hair. It's amazing to see how many different variations we have. It's crazy to think, Dave. I mean, I've been with RX Muscle now since 2013, 2014. Big Rami, he's been Big Rami for really the same period of time. And you've seen how many different changes, how many different physiques, essentially, how many different suits he's put on, right? There was the pre-oxygen, there was the early oxygen, there was Big Rami, then there was, the quote unquote medium Rami. And then obviously what he brought in 2017, finishing up runner up to Phil. And then obviously going on to, it's amazing. It's mind blowing, really, to see how many different iterations we've seen of Rami over the course of a decade. All right. So, okay. Question about protein intake from Alexandru. Coach, I upped my protein 1.3 grams per pound. He was wondering if it's worth doing a 1.5. Notice I've gotten better results when I upped my protein and lowered my fat, so I won't get too fat. At what point do you recommend cutting down protein when you diet down?
You got to figure out what your macros are that are going to work for your body. I usually use as a mathematical formula, and remember, formulas are always meant to be tweaked depending on the person. 1.5 grams of protein per pound. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you should take 300 grams of protein in. I like to do a half a gram of fat minimum per pound that you weigh. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you should take 100 grams of fat in per day minimum. Usually with men, I err on the higher side on that. That's with women usually. And then carbs are pretty much what your body needs, and you got to figure that out. It could be anywhere from a half a gram per pound to 2 or 3 grams per pound. Carbs are just energy source. If you burn a lot of energy, you can eat more, but you never want to really vary the protein and fat. Now, when you're dieting down, while I don't like the term calories because it doesn't really define, anything, I like to go with macros instead, protein, fat, carbs. You might have to cut back your protein a little bit because if you're putting too much energy into the system and your body is saying, well, you know what? Yeah, you're not eating any carbs, but I can turn some of this protein into carbs and use that as fuel. And it is because you're eating too much protein, then that's when you have to cut back your protein. So I start dieting a lot of guys that are 230 pounds and, they get, 12 weeks deep into the diet and now they're only 185 pounds. They don't need as much protein as when they first started. So you might have to cut that back if their weight loss stops. So that's a trial and error type of thing. There are some guys that can continue to eat really high protein and still lose the body fat. If you can do that, then hey, who's better than you? You get to eat more and you're actually going to preserve more muscle and you're still losing body fat. Some people, though, you got to really lean it out. You got to pull some of that protein. I've had to cut people back from 8 ounces of protein per meal to like 5.5 ounces. Not all in one shot, of course, but over the course of time. So you got to go by how the body's responding.
We have a couple of DECA related questions. First one from Joel S. I normally take deca as my secondary compound for my cycles, but I want to try something else that's for mass, but not trend. What would be the next best mass builder?
Well, I mean, if you guys watch my stuff, I love equipoise. So I would say, using 200 or 300 to 600 milligrams per week of boldenone, also known as equipoise, would be a good addition to whatever testosterone you're taking. And they synergize each other really well. EQ makes you hungry, so you're going to be able to eat better. And I always found that was one of my favorite combos for building muscle.
We have another from JJ Nunya. Thoughts on DECA only cycle, and do you prefer NPP over DECA?
If I'm going to use DECA, I use regular DECA durabolin, nandrolone decanoate, because NPP or nandrolone phenylpropionate doesn't have the anti-inflammatory effect that real DECA does, or the long-acting DECA does. It has a little bit, but it doesn't have the. So when I take DECA, I want to get the anti-inflammatory effects. I want my joints to feel good while I'm training. So I only use DECA. Now, as far as DECA only cycles, when you start getting the DECA dose too high, that's when side effects usually ensue. Prolactin levels go up. It makes it hard to get an erection. You get the gynecomastia caused by prolactin, which can cause discharge. You start getting the side effects on DECA are dose related more than likely, at least from what I've seen with athletes I've worked with. So if you can keep the DECA dose under 600 milligrams per week and combine it with testosterone, that's going to be your best bet in terms of results and the least side effects.
G Classic Physique. Is 1 hour of cardio too much after resistance training while on your keto diet? It says also breakfast was eaten before the workout. So I guess if you want to answer that as far as, off season, pre-contest, hour of cardio too much after resistance training.
It depends on the workout. If you did a really, really hard, long leg workout, a back workout, maybe doing an hour cardio after that might be a little too much, and you might start getting low blood sugar and everything like that. But if you did like chest or something like that, or you did back, and you feel kind of good, and then you do your hour of cardio, I think you're fine. I don't think that's a problem. I think I used to always do my cardio right after the weight training because I hated going to the gym multiple times a day. I felt like my body didn't recover. It was almost like I was overworking. Here I was doing my weights in the morning. I go home, I take a nap, I feel good, and then I go back to the gym, and then I'm exhausted again. So I just found like get it over with all at one shot, and I felt a lot better.
Your thoughts on protein water? The sales seem to be gathering traction. In your opinion, will ever overtake traditional protein powder?
I don't even know I'm not even sure if I know what protein water is. Do you?
I'm literally about to look it up right now. I've never heard of protein water till now. I guess,
I think they're talking about like protein that maybe has amino acids in it. I mean, that's the only thing I could think of. And if that's the case, I would say no.
There is one brand, I'm not going to mention them, but it's called protein infused water, 10 grams of whey protein.
Yeah. Well, that's a whey protein shake. It's just the way they're processing it. Whey protein is white in powder. When you can get something clear, they have to be removing something from the protein that has to potentially damage it. So I'd be worried about that. And a lot of these drinks, you got to remember, like I know, like Premier Protein has a lot of drinks and pre-made stuff. Here's the problem: when you put protein into a liquid, you have to put an acidic preservative in there. Just like all those energy drinks have acidic, that's why they have a little bite to them, that little citric acid bite. Those acid, the acids that they add to these drinks kill bacteria. So But if you're mixing with protein, they could, they could break the protein down too, because that's what acid does. Remember, in your stomach, it activates the digestive enzyme. Seems like acids can damage some protein molecules. I don't know what the extent is or anything like that. So just be careful. If you have to drink something that's like whey protein in a clear bottle, okay, they've obviously done something to the whey. I would be very wary of using that as my energy source. Excuse me, as my protein source. I would be way more content with using an actual whey protein you scoop out and you mix yourself. Anything in solution already, anything that's clear in solution has been modified to be able to be, number one, solubilized, and number two, stable in that liquid state. So be careful of that.
But you have to imagine, Dave, because right now you're starting to see a lot of, I want to say energy drinks, but there are a lot of different drinks mixtures on the market now where you have electrolytes, energy drinks. It's like hydration meets this, hydration meets that. Right. I'm just one quick.
You know what the problem is? They
have electrolytes and protein.
Yeah, they try to jam too much technology into one product. It's like when someone comes to me and says, "You know what, Dave? I want to get huge, but I want to be shredded too." And I'm like, you can't do both. Pick one and do it well, and then we'll do the other. It's the same thing when you start jamming creatine and protein and amino acids and glutamine and this vitamin and that, all into one drink. The way they put it together and how they solubilize it and how they stabilize it and how they prevent it from, going bad. There's a lot of additives in there, and it just doesn't equate to doing each thing individually really well. So if you're going to do a shake, I would recommend doing a real high quality, whey isolate shake, okay, in water or in like your post-workout a post-workout carbohydrate, whether it be like a Vitargo or Carbolizer, whatever you use, and use that as your protein shake. Don't start buying this stuff that you can get in like Price Club for pennies on the dollar. That's probably pretty bad quality.
See, to put a bow on this, you're speaking to the bodybuilding crowd. You're speaking to the crowd that's going to be very, very, very particular about every little thing that they put in their body. Obviously, these drinks are going to be mass marketed. These are going to be the ones where, like, again, somebody's on the go, or from the YouTube podcast circuit where, again, somebody has an influencer, has a market base where it's just they're sold on the fact that this one drink has protein in it, it has electrolytes in it, has all sorts of hydration, qualities in it, and I just have to drink it and I'm good to go. Now I can do whatever. I can play basketball. I can go to the gym. I just drank something healthy. So it's why these protein bars blew up. It's why these energy drinks are blowing up right now, because people are convinced that whatever they say, the more things that are labeled on this can, the better for me. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you what I used to do at the gym, because I like the fact of electrolytes and carb replacement. I used to take Gatorades, which have all the electrolytes and carbs in them, and I would mix them with like a whey isolate shake. So I would take 2 scoops of whey isolate, mix it in a Gatorade, and drink it down. So I had everything in there. Add your own protein. The protein is what gets damaged. Okay, carbs are not getting damaged. Vitamins, hopefully won't get damaged, but the protein will get damaged when they start processing it and trying to make it clear, going into solution. That's when things go wrong. So I would be a little wary of protein that's already infused into these drinks. Add your own protein. If you want to use the electrolyte aspect of the drink and the vitamin aspect, that's fine. But for the protein, get it from the actual whey isolate.
Take one more question. It almost feels as if I wrote this question. I didn't, by the way. The grind box. I would never call myself the grind box, but cool. 42-year-old natty lifter. I've been training full body 1 time a week, 1 set per body part to failure, high intensity, no issues. This week, I decided to add 3 sets and a few more exercises, not to failure. And I've never been so sore in my life. His question is an interesting one. Are some genetics not equipped to handle volume?
Yeah, I talk about it all the time. My body cannot handle volume. I tried it. I tried the 3 on, 1 off, 3 on, 1 off. You train each body part over 3 days, and you train each body part twice a week. Destroyed me. I got really veiny looking at everything like that, but I could not grow muscle like that. It was just training too much volume, too many times a week, and I couldn't recover. And the more I cut back, the more I reduced the volume of sets, as I read Dorian Yates's articles and Mike Mentzer's, the more rest I gave my body by training each body part once a week, taking 2 full days off every single week to rest and recover. That's when my body started growing. That's when I hit my growth spurt. I was overtraining chronically. Now, forget everything I just said and look at Ronnie Coleman, who trained each body part twice a week, high volume, in the sun, in the 100-degree weather, and he only took Sundays off for church. And the guy grew like a weed and looked like a freak. But he's a genetic monster, okay? So that's not the guy you want to watch and see, oh, what did he do? No, because he can do anything and respond. I'm telling you, a lot of people can't handle high volume. There are some people that do. I am not one of them, and I know my shortcomings. You got to know where your boundaries are. And when you figure those out, embrace them. Hey, don't say, oh, well, I don't understand why I can't do high volume. Say, you know what? Thank God I found out I don't do well with high volume because I don't want to waste any more time. Now I'm going to start putting some size on because now I know what I need to do. I need to eat and I need to train. And that's the reality of the situation. Everyone's different. You need to figure out what works for you.
That is going to do for this episode of Ask Dave. Again, we're going to be at the New York Pro this week. We'll be covering it in some way, shape, or form. I'll probably stop by at Ped'S over the course of the next couple of days, see if we can get some video content with any of the competitors that are going to be stepping on stage at the New York Pro this weekend. Keep it locked. There's a lot going on right now. So, I mean, if you check on our Instagram, you know, we've been doing a lot more in terms of reposting some of the progress pictures, because not just for this weekend, but you have a lot of competitors that are competing in 10 weeks, 14 weeks, so on and so forth. So it is going to be very interesting to see how things play out over the course of the next 3 weeks. I mean, when you look at the open class, you have a lot of the new faces that are now starting to establish themselves, you know, in that top 6, top 8, you know, space, but you have a lot more of the new crop starting to make their way up the ranks as well. I mean, you look at this New York Pro, many people are asking, and Dave and Lee Priest are going to touch on the New York Pro in Iron Rage, which will go tomorrow on the channel. Yes, there aren't your quote-unquote headline names in this show, but a lot of these names that you're going to see on this show, I mean, you have the likes of Antonio Burton, you know, Walter Debs, you know, obviously, you know, a veteran like Max. You're going to have some guys in here who are trying to make a name for themselves or trying to qualify for the Olympia, and that's how you make a name for yourself. So going to be very interesting, very exciting, and we're going to be documenting every step of it over the course of the next few weeks. So if you haven't already done so, subscribe below, hit the notification bell. You're not going to miss anything that we have coming up over the course of the next few weeks, covering these competitions and, of course, everything else going on in bodybuilding. Right now on the channel, all new episode of After Hours from yesterday, all new episode of the Heavy Muscle Radio Show with Dave and Chris Aceto, and then, of course, as mentioned, tomorrow, Iron Rage with Lee Priest. For Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.